It's Spoilerin time. This show is like the distant but very important cousin of Cordkillers. Cordkillers teaches you how to watch things, and then when you watch them, you get to hang out with the distant cousin and talk about what you watched. This week we will be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 3, What If, Season 1, Episode 3, which will be our final recap of What If for a while. We'll see if we revisit it because we got to get to some other new stuff soon. And Ted Lasso, Season 2, Episode 6. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Heck yeah, dude. And you realize, Tom, that this is an unusual situation. Not only do we have three shows that, at least from my perspective, I'm excited about all three, but we have a guest who has seen all three shows and gets to join us for all three discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, Hollywood's own Meryl Barr.
How you doing, guys? Very excited. Good week of television. Also, by the way, how nice is it that all your Spoilerin time shows the last few weeks have been half hours?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't want to say that part out loud, but yes. Especially it cleared up enough time to watch Hacks.
That they're only a half hour, and we don't get more of this amazing television. All right, let's talk about Ted Lasso Season 2, Episode 6, The Signal, in which we meet Rebecca's mom, who has temporarily left Rebecca's dad and apparently does this a lot. We also have the team winning games because they're all playing together, but Coach Roy.
Oh, Kent.
Right?
Yep.
Roy Kent. Teaches Jamie Tart how to not suck because he's been too cooperative. So they have the signal of flipping him off when it's time, when it's okay for him to start playing selfishly. And we have a couple of revelations in here, including the fact that Nate is the brilliant coach that steals the limelight while Ted is having a panic attack.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with that moment. I'm gonna assume they spell it out for us, but there was a curious moment for that severe of a panic attack. The only time, like they have established that Ted has trouble, and we do need some kind of MacGuffin to bring Ted and the psychologist together, and this seems as good a time as any, but it didn't seem like this was in any way in the same league as what we saw last season from Ted.
I think it was set off at lunch. So remember, he goes to lunch.
Yeah.
And he says something about like, oh, I have a similar experience, being divorced, etc. And Rebecca's mom says, oh, your situation is different, though. I left him. You got left.
Oh.
And you see Ted not have a rejoinder, which is unusual for Ted. He doesn't go like, oh, the old switcheroo. That's a good point. He goes, yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
Plus there is the blatant setup from the phone call where it's clearly getting called maybe by his kid's school or something about right? There's something wrong and he can't do it because he's in London and it's like, oh, his mom's showing up? Great. Okay. But
so I took that
that's
as
going to sit with him.
Cumulative things, which is how trust me, I know this is how panic attacks work.
Right.
They don't happen when the triggering event happens. They build up and surprise you later at a perhaps stressful moment, like a tight game like that. And it just took him down. So I if that is how it was meant to be constructed, I found that actually very believable.
Yes, believable, but also, it's the job of a TV show to tell the story, in which case they got to, nudge and remind you that this is a longstanding issue or whatever. I feel like they did a wonderful job of it in the first season. This season, and again, I don't know how it reads week over week versus binging. My guess is binging, it's whatever megrams I have would not be a problem. But meanwhile, the star of the show was the revelation of I was wrong, not in a million years did I expect that she was flirting with Sam Obasiah. Never in a million years would I have picked that up.
They lied to us last episode.
They
visually lied to us.
I did call out the lie. But whoo, that was not where I expected it to go.
That's just Bill Lawrence. You don't play that card too often, because they didn't do it. They just showed her texting, and then they showed Ted looking at his phone.
Yep,
they were unrelated. You know, it's on us for connecting it, I suppose.
But
then why do it?
Oh my God, Sam!
For the misdirection. That's exactly why you do it, for this moment right now.
This guy gets it. Yeah. No, 100%.
I don't know. I agree with your earlier point that this season has been maybe a little too subtle. But I didn't like that reveal.
I think the season's setting up a lot, and I feel like they're doing a great job with it. I loved that, and you're seeing already seeing payoff. Like when Nate goes into his mode, he spits on the ground, like he did in the mirror.
Right. Like, he learned how to do that in last episode.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think that we're starting to move into this place where the show is actually grabbing certain moments from past episodes and throwing them in now. And I really feel like it's working. Also, Brian.
Yes.
Brian, do you have lunch plans?
Wait.
I love that scene.
Wait,
where they're shouting to each other over
when
the field.
When Rebecca shouts down.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes.
So again, subtlety. I guess the show was too subtle, or my joke was. But I love that. I think the comedy is really there. Also, the stuff with Beard and his girl, and how it's like he may be in a toxic relationship and doesn't want to admit it. Like I
like that they're dancing around it and not hitting us over the head with it. Like they implied last season that maybe she was the one who had it together, and it was him who needed to get his act in the right place. I like the reversal that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and it's a very real relationship, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like neither one of them is evil or anything, but they're both neurotic in different ways and want to stay together because, hey, who wants to be alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's I'm with you, Meryl. I think this is building a lot, and I think we forget that in season 1, I personally watched the first couple episodes and stopped. And because I'm like, yeah, these are all right. They're kind of fun. And then I went back and I watched them again and I was like, all right. And I kept going and everyone kept being better than the last. And I think everybody remembers how they felt at the end of season 1 of Ted Lasso, not the slow build. And you can't just go back to the way you feel at the end of season 1. You've got to do the slow build. Everyone
also forgets they had zero expectation for Ted Lasso in season 1. And now we have the Emmy nominated Ted Lasso has all of the expectation on season 2. So of course season 2 is not going to live up to that expectation.
If I can give real quick kudos for like Jamie Tart is a really good character and a very powerful storytelling weapon. And I would imagine in that writer's room, there's a temptation to lean very heavy on him. And they have shown extraordinary restraint so far this season. Like him just, he had a couple episodes of an arc of like, yeah, I've been a real asshat. I got to be better. That means putting my head down and doing the right thing. Meanwhile, Roy Kent has had the limelight for multiple episodes. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some, superhero Jamie Tart stuff pop up. Like
I mean, we saw some this week. He won the game.
Correct. But it's the first time we've seen anything from him since episode 1, basically. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they lean heavier on that as we get near the end.
Also, I got to go back to, I mean, the thing that propels you forward to want to watch the next episode is to see when Rebecca is going to discover that that's Sam.
Yeah.
Because if I remember right, his last message was we should meet in person, right?
Yeah, something like that. Look, I'm not ashamed to admit I might have a crush on Sam. I know my wife does, and my 13-year-old does. So I might as well join the club.
Yeah.
He's
Team
the
Sam.
best.
I will say, considering the fact that we've already seen this season, the show not taking too long to pay things off, like paying off, for example, the mystery of who Rebecca is talking to on Banter, I don't think they're going to hold that card for too long.
I think the counterexample to that, though, is, remember, Sam is the one who they defended with the previous advertiser, and they now have the Banter. They showed the Banter uniforms, and they had the funny bit with the guy at the pub who got the cheap knockoff Banter uniform. But we haven't seen any consequences from that. Brian, I know you talked about that earlier, of like you wanted to know how that was going to play out.
To be perfectly honest, Tom, I'm having too much fun to worry about it. All right. You know that I tend to obsess about these things. Like, for example, even just now when you were talking, I was thinking about how much I enjoyed Sam
really captured your heart, huh?
The three idiots shouting at the British Bake Off. It was great.
I mean, the consequence is they lost a multi-million-dollar advertiser in the business.
It's a real problem with the story, and
I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's a problem. I think it's better that we just moved on past it than like.
It's not unless they suddenly hit a point in the end of the season where it's like, we don't have enough money to keep this player on contract all of a sudden. Like, short of that, I don't see why it would be a big deal.
Well, it's
because they also dropped in rank.
It's dangerously close to breaking this suspension of disbelief. And that's what I worry about. Like if they're going to lose millions of dollars, like if you expect me to believe that Banter is going to come in with the same amount of money as fake Emirates. No, I do not believe that. And no amount of logo swapping is going to fix that.
And of course, we also got our sports arc finally called out, which is the Cup, where they get to play with all the Premier League teams again. Without having to be in that top tier league, because all the teams play, and it's only happened twice that a non-Premier League team has won the Cup. But that's our story arc for the chase, right, going forward.
Yeah.
Anything else on Ted Lasso 206?
Very happy so far.
I'm gonna drop a bomb here. The Ted you know and love will be dead by the end of the show.
What?
Oh yeah. The whole thing about this season, not physically dead, but just, I think the whole thing about this season is saying like, hey, you remember the Ted Lasso that you loved, who's like all joy and positivity? Well, that doesn't win sports. This is a sports show also. And we need to have the therapist here to say, hey, you actually kind of need to be more well-rounded than even this, Ted, because this is clearly only taking you so far. And we're seeing...
Take that bet, agree with that bet,
and
I'm going to say that it's going to happen by the end of the season.
I could see it, or at least like more explicit. That's my thought, and it's and I think that ties into all the panic attack stuff really well this week too.
That's Ted Lasso season 2, episode 6. All right, we've been filling a gap in our schedule by talking about What If. Next time we meet, we will be filling that gap up with the return of Rick and Morty, and then after that, the return of What We Do in the Shadows. So we will not be talking about future what ifs for a while. We'll see if we go back to them. But we did talk about we are about to talk about what if the world lost its mightiest heroes, which starts with a kind of an Iron Man redux with the Randy's Donuts, in which Black Widow kills Iron Man. And then shortly thereafter, all the Avengers are dead.
So I'm going to say something. The first half of what I'm going to say is going to sound like I'm upset or disappointed in the show, but it's not. Number one, I loved the first 2 episodes of this series. The first episode I loved so much, my thought was, there is no way they can all be this good. And then episode 2 happened, and it continued to be this good. It continued to be everything that I loved about the comic, writ large, with gorgeous animation and storytelling. This episode 3, is easily the again, there are no bad episodes of What If so far. It is the least good of the What If series so far. But also, it was the one that reminded me the most of the comic book from which it came. It straight up, like, the story was, yeah, everyone got murdered and Loki took over. End of story. Sometimes it goes that way. And I kind of loved it for being that. It was kind of awesome.
You can tell me, Brian, because I wouldn't know, but I saw online someone say that the comic was very dark and they would dip into dark arcs a lot. Is that true?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's been too long for me to have like a ratio in mind. But there were certainly episodes that straight up would just end with like, yeah, good thing the Hulk was there, because otherwise this is the end of the world. Bye.
I thought this episode, I really loved the whodunit twist.
I did too.
Episode. And I thought that because the thing I really like is, and this is always something that's bummed me out about Hank Pym in the MCU, is we went straight to Scott Lang and we never got young Hank Pym super genius, and we went straight to bitter old man Hank Pym, which is fine, and it worked out for him. And Paul Rudd, Scott Lang is fantastic, and I love watching him. But I really love getting just a hint of, like, it's like, okay, we did, like, how far could this have gone? And it's like taking that all the way to Hank Pym becomes a murderer. Like, I do kind of dig it. I really do kind of dig how far they went with it.
And
yeah, I love that Loki saves us from Hank Pym.
Also takes over the planet.
That takes over the planet. Yeah. I also love that Black Widow was voiced by the same woman who does Poison Ivy on Harley Quinn.
Like, oh, really? That's
yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, overall, my feeling on What If has been, it is interesting. Every episode gets a little more interesting, and I imagine it is building to something, even though it's an anthology series in name.
I mean, I really do.
I honestly hope they're not. I hope it's just the Twilight Zone. I hope they only do what they're doing right now.
I hope that it's the Twilight Zone for the show, but then whichever, like at the end of every season, they take whichever episodes resonate the most with audiences and go, we are now going to create a new animated series.
No,
off this episode.
Shut up, Hollywood.
In this reality.
I hate you. I regret ever having you on this show. No,
hey,
no.
Listen, I'm not going to pick a side between you guys. I'm just the watcher.
Are you saying that is too down?
No.
And also,
No. It's so right that I fear that is the dumb, obvious thing that Hollywood will do, and I hate Hollywood for it. Yeah.
You're telling me you wouldn't watch a whole show of Captain Carter?
I would, which is why I hate myself too. I hate everyone in this whole transaction.
Sure.
Yeah. Because God forbid we should have one short story that is beautiful and lives on its own.
What if you just leave it there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on What If 103?
No, except for Meryl made me angry. Write that down.
We'll add to the list of times I've made you angry.
Yeah, Brian's Hank Pym in this telling. That is What If episode 3 of season 1. Let's talk about Star Trek Lower Decks. Season 2, episode 3 will always have Tom Paris, which features, I thought, a well-used Tom Paris. They actually got Robert Duncan McNeil to voice him, and I was worried about that, but they didn't overuse it.
Voyager is my Trek, and I love this show, right? But I feel like it's been sucking at the teat of the TNG for like the entire run of the show up till now.
Certainly the majority of the aesthetic, right down to the font and the style of music and all that stuff. Yeah.
So to finally get some Voyager love, because Voyager's the one everyone hates. Even Trekkies don't like Voyager. So to finally get some Voyager love makes me very happy. And it's like this on top of, because we know that Janeway is going to be in Prodigy in some capacity. I'm really enjoying getting some Voyager love this year from the 2 cartoons.
Yeah, this was a little love letter to Voyager in lots of ways. Lots of little throwaway comments about stuff. I also love that Ensign Mariner and Tendi went off on a trip where Ensign Mariner tries to get Tendi over to her, roguish ways. And then it ends up that the thing they were worried about wasn't even the problem. She just wanted the box because she's a cat. A cat always just wants to play in the box.
Yeah, I did not even mind the silly punchline at the end of it. This was the last of the 3 of these that I watched right before I went to bed. What was the reason that Boimler wasn't being recognized? Was it
he wasn't in the system?
Because he's new on the ship. The security system hadn't been updated yet to recognize him.
Okay.
Or I thought they told him like, yeah, you're in the system. It'll take a minute, and then it took
took the entire episode.
Yeah, so it was not an intentional wink to the fact that he may or may not be the original authentic.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
they didn't wear it on its sleeve.
Right. Okay.
It
could
doesn't
have
have
that.
to be.
I think you could have that interpretation. I guarantee someone in the writers' room probably said like, "Hey, wouldn't someone kind of read it like this?" But I don't think that was the intention of the episode. I think the intention was, this is a silly ship where it's not the most robust, up to date of the bunch, and so certain security things are laxing.
Yeah,
and
it's
also
just as likely that somebody forgot to press enter, right?
Yes.
Like, oh right, I put him in, but I didn't save. Sorry about that.
I normally don't notice these things, but man, they really went out of their way to call out between Mariner and Tendi, the nature of their B plot story. They're like, girls trip. That's what we're on. We're on a girls trip. We're a B story. It was really weird.
Well, and we haven't even brought up the fact that what's his name is back from the dead.
Oh, right. And that whole bit about like, you never ask them why.
They just always come back from the dead.
The guy that asked him and is immediately like banned from the ship and kicked off. And
it was funny that they just rattled off a list of all of them having precedence, in the Star Trek universe. And I did enjoy that, but I guess I was hoping for, so you're not going to give us anything on this one. You're just going to say, don't worry about it.
What could they have given though, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Literally something new. Literally
it just ruins
anything.
The joke.
Yeah, the joke.
I prefer it like, we just don't get to know. He came back. What does it matter?
I kind of love this idea that it's like, because we've seen how people come back from the dead in the
I think Bryce is on my side on this one.
Yeah, I'm on Meryl's side on this one.
It was very frustrating to like build it all up, and then the payoff is a bunch of Star Trek references. I guess whatever.
That's the hilarious thing is you don't get to know weird stuff like is an explanation any better?
As someone who didn't know any of the other things they were referencing, yes, it was something.
Doesn't matter.
What's the joke? If you have to begin a sentence with, it was in Hacks. If you have to begin a sentence with, it's funny because then it's not funny.
It was very weird because I didn't like that B plot because it was very referential, and then I thought the rest of the plots were very like I was reminded watching the credits that this is created by Mike McMahon, who was a Rick and Morty showrunner, and this while I was watching it was like, this is a very Rick and Morty episode. I mean, they go to an alien planet, they find themselves like, they even do like the bit of like, the Orion people are not pirates and thieves, but I know a pirate on a thieving island, so we're gonna go there to solve. Okay,
right?
So it was a dichotomy.
Tendi has a secret past where she's like, a pirate royalty.
That also reminds me is how good is the joke where Mariner is putting green face and she's like, don't ever take a picture of me like that.
Oh yeah. No, I rather enjoyed the subtlety of how they handled all of that. Like if you knew, you knew, and they didn't feel the need to make a big deal about it.
Wait, was that actually a reference to something? Because I just like that as a blackface
basically
reference.
Blackface. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was like, yes, I know what I've heard of blackface.
Right. But her being African American, or I don't know, African Spacican, the
Federation.
Her being
Federation.
black. That's.
I just feel weird.
I also liked that. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, or maybe it was just my TV, but the Orions that they visited seemed to be a different shade of green than Tendi.
Yeah, they were all darker.
Yeah. And I was like, is that just intentional of like, yeah, I mean, black people aren't all the same shade of brown. White people aren't even all the same shade of white. We're not all the same shade of pink to dark pigment. I could see where Orions would have different shades of green. Makes sense. Okay, so any more thoughts on Star Trek Lower Decks?
I don't have anything. I liked it a lot. It was good.
All right, that is Spoilerin time. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for supporting us. Next week, if you're listening to these weekly, we'll be off for the Labor Day holiday in the United States. So next time, September 13th, we'll be talking about Ted Lasso episodes 7 and 8, Star Trek Lower Decks episodes 4 and 5, and Rick and Morty episodes 9 and 10. Technically, What We Do in the Shadows will be back too, but we'll be holding off talking about episodes 1 and 2 of that until the week after. So again, next week, Ted Lasso, Lower Decks, and Rick and Morty will be back. That's next time, September 13th. Thanks again, Meryl Barr, for being with us. Remind folks where they can find you.
Twitter.com/MerylBarr, MERRILLBARR. Send me all of your funny Lower Decks comments, and I will try and respond.
Get these episodes early at patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll spoil you again, September 13th.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.